Hello, horror fam, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 30th episode of Murders with Mertens. I can't believe it. I almost said 13th. I am your host, Joe, and this is a podcast about horror, body horror, sci-fi horror, the horror adjacent, teen horror, really problematic issues from the 90s horror sometimes. We've got thrillers, the psychologically terrifying, the horror adjacent, scary films in general. Each episode, I sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. Viewers, thank you for your support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. It all helps to get the word out and bring some much needed love to this little podcast. Audio listeners, the show is also available on podcast services around the world like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so don't forget to leave a rating when you stop by, or completely forget to even listen to me after you follow me like Greg Miller did. Yeah, you know who you are. You know what you've done. Let's see. Enough of all that housekeeping. We have a new guest to talk about the spoops, and in that endeavor, I have the pleasure of introducing the Brooklyn Bear himself, Mr. Joey Polanco. Joey, how the hell are you?
Good. Happy to be here. First of many to come in the future.
Well, I know that we both love the spoops. We love the horror, and we definitely talk about it from time to time on the Twitter. So, yeah, I said the Twitter. Yeah, I'm showing my age today. Yeah, glad to finally get you on. And you've you brought a banger. But before we get to that, Joey, who are you?
Who am I? That is many people on Twitter will, I guess, consider me a memester, an Act 3 hopeful, a horror film buff, graphic designer, video gamer, all of the above, nerd.
That works. Yeah, well, you have brought along a good one. Like I said, an absolute banger. Today's film is none other than 1998's Disturbing Behavior, written by Scott Rosenberg and directed by David Nutter. At the time, Scott would only have indie films like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead and Beautiful Girls under his belt, but he had also branched out into the mainstream with a little bit of studio fare like Con Air. And he'd go on to give us Kangaroo Jack and Venom. Thanks for that. David Nutter, mostly a television director, most recently directing 9 episodes of Game of Thrones and The Time Traveler's Wife for HBO. A whole lot of TV, this guy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. X-Files in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And more X-Files connections here. Yeah, because we've got Mark Snow doing the score, and it is so good.
Yes.
Oh, my God. It's good. I forgot that this movie had such a fun score. I was saying to you earlier in the week, I'm getting like major Twin Peaks had a baby with X-Files vibes with this score, and I'm just here for it. It's so much fun.
It's crazy how like a movie like this, like once you hear the things that happen behind the scenes and the final version that released, it's such a crazy experiment that I am like so invested in, like I am so like addicted to find every nook and cranny of everything that happened with this film, and I'm just like there's like a CSI wall in my bedroom for years of like every interview I find in Fangoria or LA Times or something, I'm just like putting the pieces together.
You are the Always Sunny gif of Charlie with the board.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I can't wait to see what you dredged up on this one. I mean, honestly, what's your history with the film?
Well, when this movie came out, I am going to reveal my age, and I apologize in advance.
That's okay.
When this movie came out, I was 8 years old. I know.
It's fair.
I know it hurts. I know.
It's fair.
I know it hurts. But
hey, I got like a little over 10 years on you. That's all. It's not that bad.
But it's like I was growing up. My dad had this like hot box cable, and I was one of those kids raised in front of a TV. My parents, they're Spanish. They don't speak English, and I'm in the other room watching things I shouldn't have been watching for my age.
Of course.
But it was fun. But this was a movie that, like, every time it came on, I was just rewatching and rewatching and rewatching, and then actually like saved up the money to buy the VHS. For kids that don't know, VHS
Mm, yeah.
is a form of media.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah. But then as like the internet age came, oh well, even though the internet was around dial-up,
Hmm.
and more information that came out about this movie is just like, okay, this was a very overlooked movie for its time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I was a sophomore in undergrad probably when this was out. It was out in 98. Um,
Mm.
yeah, this was when we were all discovering Katie Holmes, and as far as I was concerned, she was going to be my future wife at that point because wow. So she was the major attraction for seeing this movie at that time. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, there's plenty to love about this film other than, her. So, for one thing, the film looks freaking beautiful. It's is surprisingly well shot for a teen horror film in the late 90s. Um,
Yes.
it's got the banger score from Mark Snow, and a hell of a cast. Um, I just
It,
wow.
it's it's crazy going back because obviously I rewatched it again, getting ready for this, and just going back and getting that sweet film grain that we no longer get anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's weird, especially for me, that it feels so nostalgic, even though I was not in high school at that time.
Well,
Uh,
I think that's a fun thing with a lot of horror fans. Like you said, you end up seeing a lot of shit when you're way too young to see it. Usually that comes from, like you mentioned, growing up in front of a TV, or, when you have sleepover with friends or whatever. And horror films are often like a thing with that when you're a kid because it's all about absolutely terrifying each other before you try to go to sleep. So yeah, I totally there with you with that. Yeah.
Now, one thing that did surprise me, you told me earlier this week that this was actually available on HBO Max.
Hmm.
That I did not know myself, so I was very curious as to the cut that was on HBO Max. So for those out there that stumble upon Reddit, there's these small pockets of the internet that are trying to get every nook and cranny of this movie. There are three known cuts of this movie.
Yeah.
Uh, the HBO Max is the theatrical that released. There is the quote unquote fan cut that was put together with the alternate ending. And then there's the director's cut that will never see the light of day, sadly. Hopefully, because I will be tweeting at Nutter after this.
Mm.
Hopefully, maybe he has a change of heart because he is in possession of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, a lot of horror films do get, second or third or fourth lives on physical media these days. So you never know. You never know. I was shocked to see, David Lynch deciding to upres Inland Empire and end up, doing the Criterion release with that after a little theatrical run.
Yeah.
Never thought I would see something like that see the light of day, but here we are. Yeah.
I'm crossing fingers, but it seems like MGM is the ones that's pushing this away.
Yeah.
Um, so for those that are not aware, this movie went through numerous cuts. It wasn't well received test audiences in the 90s, and there was a point where David Nutter was not extremely happy with the amount of changes they were asking him to make with the final film. There is a total of 11 that I know of, 11 deleted scenes and an alternate ending. One of them being a love scene with Katie Holmes. It exists somewhere. But yeah, just see, it's crazy when you read everything that took place and you look at the final movie and it's just like, wow, this is a really incomplete. vision of this director's work. Like this is really
Yeah.
butchered.
Oh, and you can definitely tell there's just some gaps in, the plot here and
The intro.
there. And yeah, yeah.
The intro, which I'm not a, a big fan of because it's missing the rest. Um, Galvin, he witnesses a murder at the beginning of the movie in the car. Which, by the way, there is a nod to beautiful girls in that scene for those who may be aware. When a police officer asks the student to come out, he's saying you got a big game against oh, this is come on. You got a big game against Knight's Ridge, which is the town in which Beautiful Girls, the main character in Beautiful Girls comes from. Little nod, non-existent place. But yeah, after that murder is witnessed, it's never heard or spoken of again in the rest of the cut. Until you realize that there is a subplot of them trying to release this information to the public, and it's just like, wow, this is an unnecessary intro to this movie. But
Yeah, it
sadly,
barely gets brought up throughout the rest of the film, and really only as a wedge in between Steve and Gavin. Um,
yeah.
and it does feel odd, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think we should kind of jump into this, and we'll sprinkle some more of that stuff in as we go along.
Go
Um,
for it.
yeah, well, we start with opening credits and a great
Yes.
theme from the one and only Mark Snow. And this is all super, late 90s, early aughts, and I'm absolutely here for it as far as how it's cut together. It's you got to have that big long intro with just credits and nothing of plot or anything. It's no, we're not just getting right into this. We don't have a cold open, none of that. Nope, we're here for straight up credits, and that's cool.
That 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 title sequence still works today, by the way.
Oh yeah, it does. You get the little flashes of like the implants with the eyes and
Mhm.
school kids, dressed up like the good kids. And
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
other fun stuff, just as little sprinkles and teases to get you started for this. And then we jump into it. We cut from here to a starry night sky, and get the final bits of daylight fading on the Pacific Northwest. And there's a ferry giving a blast of its horn as it departs, and loons calling in the distance. They are saying, "This is the Pacific Northwest," as much as they possibly can. And I guess the local dam's the popular makeout spot, and we see a couple of teenagers in their car parked there, and they're kissing. And the song that the film is trying to promote as hard as it can is playing on the radio. And yeah, we've what is it? Got You Where I Want You from The Flies.
Mhm.
I remember it being popular at the time. That and the Harvey Danger song that plays halfway through this was used in the marketing like crazy. Um, that was pretty
Even
popular
in the
too.
Flies, even in the Flies music video, the Katie Holmes and James Marston filmed some random things
Mhm.
for the music video as well.
I kind of miss that with music videos of songs from
Yeah.
movies, like yeah, yeah, that was a time, the 80s and the 90s. But
Weirdly, I what hits my head is Dangerous Minds whenever I think of a movie music
yep,
video of like what is going on?
yep.
Yeah.
The music video for Ray Parker Jr. for Ghostbusters,
Yes.
where
Yes.
they shot tons of stuff for the music video. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. You just don't really see that stuff anymore. Um, so yeah, we got the kids making out, the girls being quite a bit more aggressive, and the guy's just kind of cold and aloof. And she asks him what's wrong, and he does the jock thing of saying he needs to keep his fluids in him for the big game. Yeah, gross. But yeah, it's a thing, I guess. And he changes the subject by criticizing her ankle tattoo. Um, so we're getting a real sense of just how prim and proper this dude is.
Mhm.
Not really sure how these two connected with how aggressive she is and how he's being,
Yep.
but whatever. We'll understand more later. So he calls the tattoos self-mutilation, and she responds with giving him a BJ. So yeah, as
Naturally.
like you do.
Yeah.
Um, and this is all happening while the local stoner Gavin is watching from a hill above. Meanwhile, the 5-0 pulls up to bust some neckers. And at this point, Andy, the jock, he starts having a bit of a negative reaction from the stimulation. And we get this red light pulsing in his eye. And suddenly he just straight up snaps her neck.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And pulls her head up to his face and says to her, slut. He just kind of zips himself up as the cops are knocking at his window. And the officer, gets him out of the car, asks him about the big game coming up, like you mentioned. And this is the point where his partner spies the dead girl in the passenger seat. The kid has his little freak out, grabs the first officer's gun and blows the other one away. Again, saying that he needs to keep his fluids.
For the game.
Yeah, I need my fluids. So this officer, he's pretty calm about all this, right? He pulls the other officer's body aside and he dumps the girl out of the car and he tells the kid to get out of there as he calls it in. Meanwhile, Gavin's seeing all this shit going down from above.
Yeah, dog, by the way.
Yeah, because we never see the dog again in this film, do we?
Never at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of sad about that. Yeah, there you go. Again, one of those things is very clear. There's something missing on the cutting room floor. And the dog does bark as they're running away, and the cop notices, but doesn't chase off after them or anything like that. Maybe that's something that was missing. It very easily could have been, because that would have made sense. But yeah, it's as much as it sounds like I'm shitting on this film, I'm really not. This is tons of fun and all of its late 90s glory. We get a good combination of, eventually in this film, of incredibly self-aware, talky teens like we had in Scream, and then in shows like Dawson's Creek and movies like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Funnily enough, all Kevin Williamson properties, and wonder where it all came from, right?
The Faculty.
Yep. Yes. The Faculty is another movie that absolutely rips. And if anybody hasn't seen it fairly recently, you need to do yourself a favor and go back and rewatch that movie, because that's a Robert Rodriguez all-timer right there.
Yes.
Such a good cast in that one too. But yeah.
What I will say, which again disappoints me with the cut that was released, there is a deleted scene when Gavin shows Steve the body of Mary Jo, which is the girl that which she is they cannot tell it's her only by the tattoo, but her head is missing.
Oh God.
And again, missing this scene is missing this is how he kind of alerts Steve that, hey, something is going on here.
Yeah, there would have to be many other scenes inserted for all this to make sense too, because wow, Steve would seem otherwise very okay with finding the body.
Very calm. Extremely calm.
Yeah. Well, that James Marsden, he's cool as a cucumber, right? Oh God, he was only about 24 or so when they filmed this movie, but he looks perennially in his 30s throughout his entire life. I think he turns like about 50 this year. But he always looks like he's in his 30s. It's
that I didn't know. Wow.
It's that's him. So yeah, Gavin runs away and we cut to daytime and we've got James Marsden and his younger sister. who it took me until the maybe about halfway through my note taking to realize, oh, it's Ginger from Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, yeah. Also from Freddy vs. Jason.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's she doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, but yeah, that's cool, man.
In this cut.
Damn it.
I know. And this is where it gets weird. This in this cut.
Yeah, well, they're on the upper deck of this ferry. They're clearly moving to a new town. She's super excited about starting over. He's pretty blasé about it. And let's see here. Yeah, he's just full of 90s teen angst, and for good reason, and we're going to learn about that later. But as she heads off to rejoin their folks, he spots a rowboat adrift and looks a little odd, but he doesn't really say anything about it. Yeah, God, could that possibly be tied into anything else? Because now I'm second guessing everything that's just ever so slightly off.
Yeah. That's not, but you're right, but that's not.
Yeah. So yeah, the family piles into their vehicle complete with a U-Haul trailer, even though they also have a moving truck. That's weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, as they're leaving the ferry, this attendant welcomes them with this super cryptic, "You'll never want to leave" or whatever. It's okay.
Cradle Bay.
Yeah. A little ham-fisted. Yeah, Cradle Bay, Crescent Island. And then we get to the house as the movers are unpacking boxes. And the younger sister, she's playing with some kind of alien autopsy toy while avoiding helping her mother unpack. This kid seems about 5 or 6 years like too young, or rather too old to be playing around with some of this stuff. There's other instances throughout the film where this girl is clearly in junior high, but she's doing stuff or being treated like so much more of a child. It's very odd to me, but it's just what I'm picking up as I'm watching this thing. I don't know.
I think the next or I think 1 or 2 scenes after this is where my first question comes up with this sister.
Okay.
Cut.
Okay, so yeah, in that case, I'm glad we're on the same page. The dad checks in with James Marsden. I have this horrible habit of just calling people by the actors' names. With Steve, and asking him if he's
so generic, but
you know it is.
Yeah.
And asking him if he's nervous about his first day at school, and the kid denies it, but it's very clear that he's going through something because he's just kind of sitting on the edge of the bed, staring off into nothing. And then after his dad walks away, he calls after him, but his dad's like, "Nope, I already left the room. Peace." You got your chance. Yep. It's so odd because he's clearly within earshot, but he's just walked away. And
you do get the splices of his memories of his brother.
Yeah, kind of like memories or a dream or whatever. And it's so funny because it's presented as like home video. And his brother is clearly a somewhat disturbed individual, and not great. Steve snaps awake from this little reverie, and then we just cut to school. And we get the establishing shot of the school. And for a small island in the Pacific Northwest, they have a massive high school population. This is a lot of kids.
Now, it's crazy that, yes, massive population, but each establishing shot of the school, I see the same 2 extras in every scene.
That's fair.
There's this guy with the striped shirt, and I see him from afar, and it's like this was all filmed in the same day. But
yeah, like the skater kid with the green shirt with the logo on it. You see him over and over again. But yeah, I mean, it's clearly established that it's a pretty big school. Now, comparatively, like Mackinac Island here in Michigan, it's probably the most populated island in Michigan. But their school only has 52 kids, and that's pre-K through 12th grade. So,
Whoa.
and I'm very curious how big this island is, just because how do you have a population that has that many high school age kids? It just doesn't make sense. But I'm not supposed to think about this, but it's something I'm clearly noticing as I'm watching this.
It's weird. I never thought of that here in New York. I never made that connection.
Yeah, because it's not supposed to be a big city or anything, but this feels like the type of high school where it's a town where there's like two or three different high schools. It's that big because they have that many people. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just weird to me. Um, but yeah, and you get the clear shots of, okay, here's all your punk kids, and here's your, blue ribbons. We don't know they're blue ribbons yet, but we see some of them walking in. Um, and cut to English class right away, where they're discussing Great Expectations. And Steve gets called out for being new by this prissy ass teacher. I don't know what his deal
It
is.
was aggressive. Very
Yeah.
aggressive. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 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 Very strange teacher. But once you get deeper into the film, it's very clear who's in on everything and who's not. And clearly this dude is in on everything. We get one of the students who's big into auto shop, Dickie, coming in late, and the teacher gives him a bunch of shit. This kind of saves Steve from having to respond to anything. He calls the teacher a peckerhead. There's a bit of an exchange between them. And then, like, the king of the good kids, I think his name's Trent, calls him out for being stupid. And Dickie decides it's time to throw hands, and he gets sent to the principal's office. This all happens relatively fast.
Yeah.
The teacher continues to be a massive asshole throughout all of this. I love teachers in a lot of 80s and 90s stuff. The type of shit that they get away with is just absolutely ridiculous.
My favorite is in many of these high school shots in the 80s and 90s, you always have the extra shot of the kid like pulling the jacket, straightening himself out multiple times after like a scuffle. Was like, yeah, you did it like 4 times in one cut. Okay, we got it. It's straight. We're good.
It's kind of it's like Liam Neeson hopping over the fence a dozen times in Taken 2. Yeah.
Yeah. We got it, dude. We got it. You straighten it out. We're good. Sheesh. And then you have a Gavin in the back with the headphones on.
Yeah. They have their first little meeting with each other, but they're not really introduced. But now we get to lunchtime, and this is where Gavin and UV do introduce themselves. Steve lays his sandwich down directly on the table. No plate, no napkin. Gross as all hell. Sure, dude. But you're nasty.
Even the stoner dude has a wrapper and everything.
Yes, yeah, his sub that he never eats. I have a feeling he's just keeping his drugs in his sandwich. That's what it is.
Yeah. But he's explaining the class system.
Yes, and this is one of the just iconic scenes of this film. He proceeds to introduce Steve to the various cliques around the lunchroom in just spectacular fashion, like who they are, what they're into, along with their music of choice and drug of choice. You got your motorheads, the nerds, the skaters, and of course, the blue ribbons. Yeah. This is where we are very much introduced to the fact that this is a movie that's riffing on the Stepford Wives.
Yes.
Because holy crap, these kids are straight out of the 50s. Yeah, there's nothing more to say about their look.
That was on my notes too. Yeah.
They're kind of awful. And I think before this, we're introduced to I think her name is Lorna. She's like the queen bee of them and Gavin's fantasy. But they're awful to each other, and so yeah, they both deserve each other there. On his way out of school, Steve spots a very angry looking Dickie taking off in his Mustang and looks back at a couple of blue ribbon kids that are harassing this kid who clearly does not want help with his math. yeah,
And it's very out of character actually for them.
yeah, it's, they, while they're presented as being the good kids
Yeah.
and the upstanding kids of this high school, they're all assholes and they're all
Yeah.
super cold and unkind to everyone. I mean, there's this parent meeting later on in the film where one of the parents of one of the blue ribbon kids is actually bringing this up. How, they're just, he's cold, he's distant, doesn't seem to have any, love for anybody but the people in his group. And yeah, oh God, it shows. It's, man, I suppose it's meant for the best. I mean, they're all doing this as a way to, get their kids into, a better life, but how is it awful? Um,
But then you get introduced to Katie Holmes.
yeah, yeah. Well, eventually, because we go back to Steve's place, after, this with the math kid. Um, and his sister's
This
made a
is where
friend.
that's where I'm like, wait a minute, this was way too fast.
Yep.
What just happened here?
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's made a friend at school on her first day and brought her home to have dinner with them, and they're practicing for a spelling bee in junior high.
The
Again,
first day.
yeah. And again, it's you're doing spelling bees in junior high. Again,
Yeah.
what age are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
It, mm, and
Yeah. In this cut.
in this cut. Okay.
Yes. Yes. We're gonna keep saying that.
Okay. So it's revealed through conversation that yes, they had a brother who died, and the dad really doesn't want to talk about it. Steve gives him a little bit of pushback about all this and basically storms off. And we just cut to Dickie driving out to this creepy commercial dock to pick up some car parts. And it's very clear this is all a setup by the Blue Ribbons to beat his ass. Or
Which I will say I do find funny when he comes and he's like, yeah, yeah, I'm here for the Mustang parts. It's like, you have a Mustang. That's perfectly built, perfectly shiny.
Yep. Yeah, it's
We
a
could have thought of
beautiful
anything
car.
else. We could have thought of anything else on the script. I'm here for the Mustang parts.
Yeah,
All right.
it's not great dialogue, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Not there are some choice lines in this film with the slang that we'll get into later.
It's excusable for its time.
I don't know, because to me it
No.
sounds like slang that never existed, that was written for this movie. It's like, this is what the cool kids will say by the time we've recorded this movie and actually released it. I don't know. It's weird, but again, still kind of works.
Yeah.
So yeah, the camera kind of cuts away as it looks like Dickie is going to have to throw down with all these people that brought their bats and hockey sticks and everything else to fuck him up. Yeah, good times. Cut to the next day. Maybe it's again the sign of a film that got torn to pieces in the editing bay is not being able to put together a really good sense of timeline, whether it's the next day or a few days from then or whatever. But yeah, Steve is in a meeting with the principal, and they're expecting this Dr. Caldecott that he's basically like a counselor for the students in some kind of capacity. They kind of hand wave his position away. It's weird, but he's played by the always awesome Bruce Greenwood with a less than awesome mustache. It's creepy. I think it's supposed to be slightly Nazi-esque looking. I think that's kind of the whole point, because of doctors doing, creepy experiments and all that stuff. So, yep, he could be a, easy stand-in for a Dr. Mengele type thing. Because clearly that's what this is all about. So Dr. Caldecott encourages him Steve to join the Blue Ribbons, just because, it'll be good for you. These are upstanding
No.
kids. They lift each other up. They study together. They practice together.
Fundraisers.
Yes, they make each other better people, blah, blah, blah. Man, they are pushing this Blue Ribbons thing hard on him, but he declines. And then they tiptoe around the idea that his brother's death is the reason that he's declining, but he's just like, nope, I'm out. And yeah, that's Dr. Caldecott there.
Weird to say he's declining in the first week, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're declining. You're showing no interest. I'm like, dude, it's like my second, third day.
Yeah. Give me an opportunity to get my feet wet in this school and see what's what
Yeah.
and see what I want to do. But no, they're just pushing this on him right away. Um, and when we know more of the plot later on, that becomes a bit more clear as to why that is. So this is where Steve steps out of school to the absolute vision that was the late 90s Katie Holmes. Fuck you, Tom Cruise.
Pantsing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yep, that was a time where a bunch of sophomore college dudes are all sitting on a couch watching Dawson's Creek for one reason and one reason only. But yeah, Gavin introduces them and suggests that they go, try to cruise for some beer. They go through about 10 people in the parking lot of the grocery store, asking them to buy for them with no results. And here we are introduced to Chug. What a lovely nickname. Yeah. Somebody that Rachel clearly used to be friends with, but now he's a blue ribbon and he's all extra stalkery. Gavin is far less than kind to him. Yeah, making all sorts of jokes at his expense about steroids and everything else. Chug
Yogurt shop.
Yes, he invites her to the yogurt shop. And of course, this town, it's not just an ice cream parlor. No, it's fucking frozen yogurt because they're going to be extra healthy. Not that frozen yogurt is necessarily bad, but when you've got ice cream as an alternative, I'm just saying, you don't look like, you don't look like this from frozen yogurt. No, it's ice cream. But Gavin just wants to crack jokes about that. I love the whole thing about active cultures. That's funny. That's fucking funny. Gavin is a sharp kid. Chug just heads inside the store after shoulder checking Gavin. And Gavin just continues to needle Rachel about all this. She's just like, fuck off. I love their dynamic. They're supposed to be good friends, but they're just constantly. Yes. So as they're getting after each other there, Chug is waiting in line and staring just transfixed at Rachel's body. And he's clearly having a little bit of a malfunction indicated by, the flashing right eye. And when these couple of teens bump into him from behind, he goes off on them, ripping the septum piercing out of the one kid's nose and just mopping the floor with these kids. My favorite bit is the shot from the parking lot where you just see the kid in the green jacket getting tossed through the air.
Over.
Yes. It's so good.
My favorite shot is after when the sheriff is in the story. He's like, oh, here.
I know. It's
like, oh, here we go. Here we go, dude.
Time to do cop shit. God damn it. It's on my way home.
Milk and bread. It's like, there you go.
So, yeah, he tries to calm Chug down. But when the kid with the bleeding nose says something to him, he grabs that kid again and throws him into the meat section. Finally wears himself out. These kids that they get triggered by getting extra horny. And then they just need to get their aggression out just a little bit. And then all of a sudden they mellow out again. So
Where's my shot? What's he said?
Yeah,
yogurt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's looking for his milkshake or whatever it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, the thing that he squeezes in his hand and explodes
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's all done. The cop just kind of hand waves things away, and our trio drives off into the night. I think they're dropping Gavin off at home or something like that. It's really unclear because at first it looks like he's just going off to the side of the road to take a piss or something, but then they just roll up their windows and drive off without him. And they're discussing, why Chug did what he did. Gavin wants to bring up the thing that he saw the other night. Rachel just is blaming it on steroids and shooting down his theories because they're crazy. Again, that opening scene just kind of hand waved away.
Yeah.
Um, mm, I
This
don't
is
know.
the same sheriff from the beginning of the movie.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Never
it's
spoken of again.
there's clearly more to tell here. They just don't want to do it. But whatever. At school the next day, Gavin, he's got to get this story out. He's got to get Steve on the same page with him. So he takes him down to the boiler room, which is his regular spot to go sneak a cigarette. And here's where we're introduced, after he tells his story, to the janitor, who just pops up from this hole in the ground because he's been chasing rats through the ducts of the school. And he's got this sonic device that he's trying to use to chase them away. That's kind of cool. It will come back later in big ways because, of course, it
Mhm.
will. And he's introduced as very much a slightly disturbed gentleman,
Yeah.
muttering to himself like crazy. He ends up being a very cool character, though. Um, Cut to outside, and we see that the Blue Ribbons are hosting a charity car smash event, which I haven't seen since I was a senior in high school myself. I don't know if these things are things anymore. I
Yeah.
don't
No.
know.
Those are things.
Yeah, no kidding, especially when you're using a pristine classic Mustang for that because it's Dickie's Mustang and we are introduced to Dickie himself, now reformed as a blue ribbon who yeah,
With no
takes
bruises, no nothing. We don't know the time frame.
no, exactly, because again, weird cuts. It's
Yeah.
probably been a few days, I would assume.
Yeah.
But as they're observing all this activity, the trio's talking about their theories again. And Steve, he doesn't want to believe Gavin's story, blaming the weed. And, he just kind of walks off. I keep saying trio, but UV is actually involved in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't say a whole lot, so it's kind of easy to forget him, but his character's still fun. Um,
To put a little more context into that, right before
mm,
they meet the janitor downstairs in one of the deleted scenes, Gavin starts talking to Steve about Mary Joe. He starts putting
okay.
that idea in the head before the janitor arrives in the same basement boiler room, wherever they are. In I don't know what school has a room like this, but yeah. So
Hey, you
yeah,
can't have a Freddy Krueger without having a boiler room. So
sure,
there you
sure. This
go.
guy's like under the sewers. It's like, yeah, okay, that's
Mhm,
normal. That's
mhm.
normal.
Sure. So yeah, because later on they reference an argument and Steve walking away from this scene, it's barely an argument. It's just
Yeah,
okay, dude. Yeah, it's puff puff pass. It's not your father's marijuana anymore. It's
yeah.
yeah. So we cut from here to Steve approaching the yogurt shop, going to see what it's all about. Um, yeah, I love the signage on
They
the
show
shop.
a focus. They show a focus on that one extra who's behind the cash register. Just a
Mhm.
heads up. You see him numerous times later on in the movie. Just gonna point out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's
Point him out.
again not tons of people in this film, even though they're
Yeah.
trying to make it look like it's a lot more people. So yeah, he's going to see what the yogurt shop's all about, and he's about to get sucked into the blue ribbons black hole. When Gavin steps into the shop to save him, we get the comment about, one argument, you storm off or whatever,
Mhm.
and the blue ribbons are like, fuck off, dirtbag, basically. Um, they're doing everything they can to sway Steve to their side. Um, God, they're just so
I do
not
love the one
appealing.
comment. I do love the one comment he made. Like, didn't you guys fight in English class? He's like, yeah, but we sorted out
We've
our
made
differences. I'm like,
peace. Yes,
yeah, it's like,
we're.
whoa.
It's what separates us from the animals. He says.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's like, whoa.
yeah,
But I will say that he does. I forgot exactly what he says to Lorna sitting in front of her. He's like, "Did you have any friends in Chicago?" He's like, "Yeah, a few." And she's like, "Oh, we could be your friends." I'm like, "All right, that was weirdly hot.
yeah.
That was just
It was
weirdly hot."
hot, but super culty. Um,
Yes, yes,
that's how
yes.
they get you
I'm like,
in, Joey. That's how they get you
yeah.
in.
I'm like, damn it. Yeah, okay, okay. You know what? I'll take a yogurt. I'll take a yogurt. All right,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Oh, now we're getting a free haircut. Oh, there's
Yeah.
robes involved.
What?
Oh shit,
Yeah.
it's a
Free
cult.
sweaters.
Damn
Okay.
it, it's a
Free
cult.
sweaters. Yeah, yeah. It's worth it. I'll take it. I take it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good. So yeah, Gavin basically shows up to save the day. They have their little scuffle and they walk out. Gavin showing him this photo of the people from inside when they used to be his friends and they were all dirtbags like him.
Yeah.
And, look at this change. Something is not right. And he reveals the reason why he came to save him. It's time to go back to the school. There's a meeting we need to see. So they
Yeah.
sneak into like the rafters or the ductwork or whatever above the
Biggest
school's
school ever.
auditorium. Oh yeah.
The biggest school ever.
Again, massive school for a tiny
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
And we see this meeting between the parents of the town and Dr. Caldecott. They discuss a new candidate for their program. And once the group has their vote and approves, they bring in, Gavin's parents. Oh, shit.
Which I will add that in an extended scene,
Mm,
which was supposed to be released, the doctor explains how he failed with his own daughter and why she didn't work in this program
gotcha.
before introducing his parents. And I'm like, kind of, we should have that there, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. And we get some commentary on this meeting a little bit later on in the film, where they talk about other things observed, that kind of lead them to the daughter
Yeah.
as well. But we'll get there. So, of course, when Gavin sees his parents, he freaks out and they leave. Steve, not understanding why it's all such a big deal. Gavin reveals that, guess what? It is the end of the world. And when I go home and finding them all there waiting for me, I'm going to blow them all away. He reveals that he has a gun. Steve freaked out that he has a gun, makes some kind of crack about how he'll probably end up shooting the paper boy. They wrestle and Steve gets the gun away from him. And I'm surprised that Gavin doesn't try harder to get the gun back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really doesn't. And it's kind of implied that Steve is walking off to go throw the gun in the water because they're down at the shore here as they're walking along having this conversation. But yeah, Gavin at this point
I
is
can't comment. I can't comment on that just yet.
fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense as something like this would come into play in a deleted scene later. So
But
yeah,
but one thing that doesn't make sense about this scene is just that um he doesn't want to go home. He's just like, hey, when I go home and they're waiting for me, I'm gonna take them out. But when he gets offered by Steve, like, hey, just stay at my place for the night, he refuses that as well. And I'm like, okay, sure.
yeah, yeah, I don't get that. It might be something along the lines of he knows what's coming for him and he doesn't want Steve to be in danger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Possibly, I don't know. That's the only way I can hand wave that away because otherwise, yeah, that's weird. That's an offer he probably should have taken. So yeah, at this point, he's like completely broken, understanding that he has his fate and he is stuck with it, and he's got a couple of things he needs to do. So he walks off into the night, and cut to like the next day or so, maybe, I don't know, a few days later, where Gavin shows up at school all blue ribbonified. And yeah, when Rachel, Steve, and UV try to talk to him, a brawl basically breaks out, and Steve is getting his ass beat, and the janitor ends up breaking it up. Um, Unfortunately, what's his butt, Chug, just has to drop the hard R word, and he does it a second time. It was the late 90s. Yeah. We were not super kind to people with cognitive impairments, but nice to wash that word out of your mouth. But yeah,
taking that away, this was probably my favorite scene.
Oh yeah, it's kind of
awesome scene.
Horrific, because you get that moment of, he's just beaten and bloody on the ground. You see the hand reach out to help him back up, and it's Gavin. Yeah. He lifts him up only to knee him in the gut.
Damn. I was like, oof.
Yeah.
I was like, that's even from the intro of the scene when the camera's just tracking behind him and they're not showing his face. I'm like, this is great. This is 90s.
Yeah. Oh, and again, all shot super well. It looks
cinema.
Fantastic.
This is cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah.
we didn't get this kind of thing again for a very long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, Steve is not doing so hot there. And yeah, they just kind of cut to another day. Steve's taking his lunch breaks in the boiler room because he doesn't like the cafeteria anymore for reasons. The janitor, basically saying, hey, nobody likes the cafeteria. And this is where the janitor's persona finally breaks, because Steve notices he's got a copy of Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse 5, and there's more to this guy than this bumbling idiot janitor. And they have their little talk about, just wanting to disappear. And once you've done it, just what you can observe, because people are no longer observing you. And it's a cool exchange. I like this guy quite a bit. It's I can't remember the actor's name, but he's the one that plays Death in Bill and Ted, right?
Yeah.
He's good.
But I will add again, deleted scene or an extended scene. I
love it. This is what this is all here for.
Yeah. No, the janitor explains to Steve in this scene after their talk that years prior, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, I forgot the exact number. There was a car crash involving 5 students in the town. And he was saying, the book is the Sinister Five that he's what is it? The
Slaughterhouse 5.
Slaughterhouse 5. And he explains about the car crash that happened years prior, and then says, like, once the blue ribbons started showing up in town, there hasn't been any more car crashes lately. And again, something that's like left with Steve pondering as he's leaving the boiler room. And I'm just like, how do you it's a big moment. It's a big scene.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
And again, studio meddling.
I'll get it. Oh, I will get it. I'll get that cut.
From here, we've got later that night. Oh, you got something?
No. I believe he's walking home and he passes the yogurt shop.
Oh yeah, there's the moment where he sees Gavin and all his new friends in the yogurt shop, and it's just one more stab in the gut as far as
like a bit beat up and
but yeah, then he's like walking home later through the woods, and of course all the blue ribbons are stalking him. They're on this bridge overhead. It's like a scene from The Lost Boys or something. And he finally makes it home after stumbling and tripping his way through the, dark, rainy woods. And of course, there's Lorna there for whatever reason on his couch. His parents are at a meeting, and she was there to tutor his younger sister, and she's asleep upstairs. So what are you doing? Are you tutoring or are you a babysitter? What's happening here? Of course, she's just there for him, but yeah. He wants to kick her out, and she's like, "Well, at least let me use the bathroom first." And she heads over there, and then she's watching him drink a Coke in the mirror and getting a little turned on. And of course, this causes her chip to malfunction a little bit. She comes out with her shirt undone and her hair kind of teased up. And he's like, "What the fuck?" And she gets a little too horny, and the chip just breaks like it does. She smashes her face into the mirror, Dale Cooper style, and picks up one of the big shards and comes after him with it. And again, once she gets a little bit of her rage out, she calms down again, but still kind of broken. She's like, "I gotta go. I got a big physics test tomorrow." It's like, "No, you need to go and get yourself checked out, girl." It's not good.
I mean, if you were to look at James Marsden drinking a Coke, I understand the reaction.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and while she's having her freak out moment, she's repeating, bad, wrong, wrong, bad, bad, wrong, wrong, bad, and these words were in her head. Yes. I love all the repetition. Yeah, it's very clear that some conditioning has happened along with all of this, reformatting of the kids. So we cut to Dr. Caldecott and some other doctor examining the girl, talking about how, yes, her implant malfunctioned because of excessive horniness. It's what happened. Talking about how, it just caused the pineal gland to, just produce too much dopamine, and she snapped. Yeah, that darn pineal gland will get you every time, just like in From Beyond. But at least we don't have it sticking out of people's foreheads in this one. Excellent flick, though. Excellent flick. Horny as hell, but excellent flick. So it's a very quick scene, and basically, yes, just confirming all of our suspicions about, a chip implanted in the eye and conditioning and all sorts of other shit. And then we get the next day with Rachel. Not yet. We don't.
No. And this is where there is a deleted scene here where Steve has a conversation with his sister to kind of raise the suspicions, like, hey, something is going on in this town, but doesn't tell her what happened downstairs with Lorna.
I mean, I'm sure he'd like to leave that part out, at least certain parts of it.
Yes,
but yeah,
and then the
next day we get Rachel going to the boiler room to have a cigarette. In the little hiding space where they keep their smokes, she finds a disc that Gavin had burned for her. And this is where Chug walks in to just be extra aggressive with her. She's saved by the janitor with his sonic device, which Chug ends up smashing. And as he's walking out afterwards, he's like twitching and glitching and stuff. It's
like a wrench.
It's yeah, but it's very clear what will end up being, their salvation at some point in this movie. It's the particular frequency that this box is putting out. And we get the Blue Ribbons continuing to stalk Steve. He's very concerned about his sister falling for their charms. But at this point, he goes off to see Rachel, who shows him the video that Gavin left for her. It's basically his big goodbye. And he drops a little clue about this hospital across the bay. He overheard, he went back to the high school after his exchange with Steve at the beach and overheard somebody talking to Caldecott about these people that, were essentially the first subjects And Caldecott just went off on the guy that brought it up and figured it's probably important. Rachel reveals that she's already done the research as far as where Caldecott was working prior to coming to their sleepy little town. And it's just a quick ferry ride away. So off they go.
But
Except
sprinkled throughout this bit of timeline, UV is doing some investigating work himself in Anderson.
I would have liked to have seen that.
I would have as well, but there's a reason for it, and I'll explain that later.
Fair enough. So yes, they take off on a ferry to the mainland, and as they're waiting on their trip, they're on the upper deck, getting the last little bit of sun of the day. And Steve explains to her about his older brother's suicide at this point. He opens up, and it's fucking heartbreaking. And she actually is a pretty nice friend to him about all this here. So yeah, it's cool.
There is scenes and an entire backstory relating to his brother that was removed from the movie.
It sure as shit feels like it.
Yeah,
that's too bad. It's for as fun a film as this is, the film's great, but it could be better, right?
Yeah, I guess they were just like, hey, he's just releasing Can't Hardly Wait right now. He has enough camera shine over there.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a film I need to go back to and see how that doesn't hold up.
I did.
Pretty much what I expect.
Yes. Yeah.
Fair enough.
No one has a cell phone.
Yeah, that breaks the movie. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, he opens up about all this, and then basically cut to them sneaking into a creepy mental hospital with the worst security in the world. They get in here with great ease, and they're basically encountering all of Caldecott's failed experiments along the way. You get, people with obvious injuries to their eyes, other people just completely broken by the experience. They eventually come to a rec room with, I think it's some Barry Manilow playing, because of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? And as this nurse comes in, they run off to hide and find this young lady on like a back porch or something that's enclosed. But and she's having a freak out, repeating these lines about the little creatures hiding in the flowers or whatever. And she's going off like crazy, riling up all the other patients, and Katie Holmes just lays her out. It is great.
Yes. Down to the sound effect.
Oh yeah. It's such an 80s, 90s punch of a sound effect. And this is where we discover this is Caldecott's daughter. Oh, what a sick motherfucker, right? He's an awful father because he has dumped his daughter there after experimenting on her. And when they realize that it's the daughter, they flee to Harvey Danger. And again, the big trailer scene right here. And again, horrible security. They just get in and out of this place like nothing.
It was lunchtime.
I guess. I mean, we only ever saw one nurse and one security guard for the entire operation. So,
but this was the part I picked the volume up when the song started blasting.
Oh yeah, because it's a bop, right? It's they were a one-hit wonder, but it was a fun song. So yeah, cut to them stopping for gas, realizing that they got to hurry to get to that last 11:30 ferry, and of course, who would happen to pull into the gas station but Officer Cox, the asshole cop who's obviously in on all of this. And he questions what they're doing out because it's past curfew. They claim they were out studying. He's like, "Where's your books?" And
good point.
Good point. And then the janitor pulls in, causing a bit of a distraction. And he does his little song and dance to help distract. But ultimately, nope. The cop's like, "Get out of the car." and he's thrown into the back of the cruiser, and all seems like it's lost, but no. The janitor clocks the cop over the back of the head with one of his rat boxes, and it's glorious. He's like, "What the fuck are you waiting for? Get out of here!" It's good, and they do. They skip the ferry ride, unless that's a deleted scene. There's so many. And yeah, they arrive back at Steve's house. Rachel's waiting in the truck for Steve to go get his sister. The plan is get the sister, get out. Probably the plan is also for UV to meet up with him because of something that happens in just a little bit. But
And a deleted scene, but go on.
yeah. So ultimately, he gets his sister downstairs and lights flip on. There's the parents. They're like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "We're getting out of here. We're getting back to Chicago." Unfortunately, Caldicott's there too, because Steve's parents have signed him up for the program. Steve ends up sucker punching the good doctor and oh yeah, he goes down like a sack of potatoes. And Steve steps outside to find all the blue ribbons standing out there, towering over him. And he's like, "Oh, fuck." And they knock him out. And yeah, he's having a bad couple of weeks here, but culminating in a horrible evening. They must have Rachel already, because they knock him out, and UV is kind of watching from the shadows. That's why I figured their plan was to escape with him as well, because he was probably coming to them. And when he wakes up, he's strapped to a gurney and being pushed through some really dank looking tunnels. He looks over and he sees Rachel strapped into a chair, and he is brought into a similar looking operating theater. He scuffles with the techs and manages to snag a scalpel just before getting strapped into the chair. And this is where, of course, Caldicott's got to step in and monologue about shit. And he taunts the doctor about his daughter. And the doctor is revealed to be worst father ever because of what he says about, her. Yeah, it's not great. So they strap him up and they get him started with this really horrific combination of like A Clockwork Orange and Fire in the Sky. Between the "I can't shut my glazies" as he watches all this motivational, encouraging propaganda type shit flashed in front of him. He also has this implant coming straight at his eye, but super slow, and it's like super heated as well. It's terrifying.
Branding.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I don't know how somebody's eye is supposed to survive this implant going in. But we're gonna hand wave that away.
Which I have an upcoming question in a few seconds. Go on.
Okay. So he manages to cut himself free during all of this, and he's got kind of Total Recall style. He's got the thing strapped to his wrist with the pipe coming off of it, and he stabs the one tech with it. And he breaks himself free, and you get this great moment where he smacks this other tech in the head with the pipe. And I love how the scene plays out and the sound of the pipe connecting. It's again,
the framing.
Cinema.
The man coming
Cinema.
in. Yeah. Man's just coming in, he gets hit. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Oh yeah, it's good. And he gets Rachel loose, and this is where I start getting Halloween 3 vibes.
This is where my questioning comes in.
Okay.
Because he comes to, get Rachel out of the chair and stuff, and she's knocked down. He's waking him up. I'm like, wait a minute, if you're knocked down and you're sleeping, how was that eye gonna implant? How was that eye ever going to implant you? You were knocked. You were asleep. You were knocked out, apparently. Just FYI, just throwing that out there.
Yep. So I start wondering to myself as I'm watching this, oh no, did they get to her before he was able to get her free? Is this Halloween 3 all over again? And she's actually a robot, right? Oh no, she's definitely not. But I love how they play off of that, in that she's silent. She doesn't say a thing. She's completely out of it. He can barely carry her through the hallway, where they ultimately run into Chug. And
he throws the word again.
Yeah, he does. and they tussle. And next thing you know, Rachel gets in one good whack with the pipe, and he comes after her, and he gets a second good whack in the head from her, and she probably kills him because of the amount of blood that's coming out of his head on the floor.
Yep.
But good for her, because he's an asshole,
He won't
and
miss. He won't be missed.
he will not be missed. So they make it outside. Just again, horrible security in these facilities. I don't know what's going on. But for something that's supposed to be so secretive, and you're probably going to have people that don't want to be there. Yeah, they think they're all powerful, I guess. Yeah, they run outside, and just as UV's pulling up in Rachel's truck, he's got Steve's sister. They have this great little exchange before they hop in, like, wait, man, it's the capital of North Dakota. And Steve's like, how the fuck should I know? He's like, you're cool.
You're good. Man.
You're cool.
Yeah, you're good. Come in. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. They make their way to the ferry, but they find their road blocked by all the blue ribbons and Caldecott. Maybe that's why there wasn't the security, because he had to get all of these people arranged, and it's like a lot of phone calls to me.
That guy's the real Michael Myers. He gets sucker punch, ends up in the next scene. Hit again, ends up in the next scene. It's like, wow, God, your speed.
Oh yeah,
it's on point, man.
Yeah, and maybe there's some communication that transmits through the implants. Maybe that's how they don't have to make tons of phone calls in order to arrange this roadblock. I don't know. But yeah, all seems lost until they hear the horn of the janitor's El Camino racing in to save the day. And he gives the good doctor this awesome hip check with the end of that car. It is so great to see this guy go flying. Oh, yeah, it's awesome. And he's got a giant cluster in the bed of the El Camino of the rat devices. And he fires it up, and all the blue ribbons just scream out in pain, and they're on the ground clutching their heads and shit. And they start tearing off after him to destroy these boxes. And he's leading them away from the kids, which is great. It's before even all of this, before the hip check, we had Caldecott blasting away at him with a handgun, and that will come into play in a minute. Yeah. So this is where we get the big romantic moment then of Steve giving Rachel a kiss goodbye, basically getting her and UV to get his sister to safety at the ferry, and he'll meet up with them as soon as he can. And he grabs
20 minutes.
one of the he grabs one of the blue ribbons dirt bikes and takes off into the woods after them. He's able to get ahead of the mob, which makes sense. They're just running. And meanwhile, the janitor's in his car, and he's able to get ahead. He meets up with the janitor at the cliffside, and it's revealed he's wounded. He's got a gut shot, and he's basically going to sacrifice himself rather, to take down all these psycho kids.
Kids.
And yeah. But he understands. He understands that they can't be unleashed upon the world, right? So he waits for them to basically all hop on the vehicle to start tearing it apart, and then drives over the edge while quoting some Pink Floyd. Teacher, leave those kids alone. Yeah, it's good. And they all go over the side, Lemmings style. And this is where Steve turns around, and again, super Michael Myers style or Jason style. They both do the same thing, where they just pop out of nowhere, and there's Caldecott. And yep, it's not over yet. I can move this to other towns. There's other towns, other cities. We can keep this going. You haven't won. And Steve just pops him, and they get into this knockdown drag out there, rolling around on the cliffside. And eventually Caldecott gets flung overwards, gripping onto Steve's foot as he hangs off the edge. And Steve repeats one of the blue ribbon's phrases of "be the ball." And he kicks the guy in the face, and he goes flying off. It's great. Um, yeah.
Unbeatable.
Yeah. Uh, dopey dialogue. Awesome execution. um, I'm here
Great
for it.
visual effects. Great visual
Oh,
effects.
yeah. Is it as good as Hans Gruber falling off of Nakatomi Plaza? No, but
Getting there. Getting there.
it's getting
Almost
there.
there.
Yep. And then Steve just barely makes the ferry, basically as the ramp is going up, and
Terrible security. One guy.
oh yeah, one guy, and he's very able to swerve around the little barrier arm thing. So he does this, half-ass jump off of the ramp, and does not come to a graceful Akira-style motorcycle slide. No, he eats shit. Um, at least. Yes, at least we got one of those in Nope, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely happy about that. So he gets up, and there's Rachel, and they catch up, and probably kiss her again, and they reunite with UV and the little sister, and they all head off into the sunset slash sunrise, because I think this is the early morning. And we just immediately cut to this awful classroom, like Dangerous Minds style classroom, where that teacher goes home every day and just drinks himself into a coma.
Substitute. Yeah.
Yep. And this is the new student teacher. And, I want you to show him some respect and blah, blah, blah. And the guy turns around and it's revealed to be Gavin. He has survived and his eye flashes red.
Which is an awesome ending.
Yes. Nice little freeze frame ending.
Yeah.
We get a return of Got You Where I Want You. And we shift to credits from there. Credits that, have the awesome score, but end with the creepy voiceover from Caldicott's daughter with the yep, and Lorna. It's Mark Snow did all these musical releases of his scores in the 90s where there were lots of voiceovers on the recordings. So this does not shock me. He did that a lot for X-Files soundtracks. It was weird. What you got
now what I would say is the original ending.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are unaware, I don't know if you've seen the original ending.
I may have on like a DVD way back when, but by all means, take the floor here.
When Steve on his Akira style jumps onto the boat and fails miserably.
Oh yeah.
Gavin is there with UV, Rachel and his sister, and he has them holding a shotgun. And long story short, he goes about like, you guys are not seeing the real picture. Why are you guys? He actually goes through a whole mini monologue there. And right when he slow motion, you see it like slowly points the gun at Steve. UV brings that gun he had previously and shoots Gavin 3 times. So he's on the floor and he kind of for a moment snaps back into his previous self, pre-blue ribbon, and he's just like 3 times, like 3 times. You shot me 3 times. And he's like, yeah, I guess I'm never gonna meet Trent Reznor, and he goes into this whole thing, and he passes away. He dies there, and Katie Holmes. No, I keep saying her real name. Katie Holmes and Steve. They walk to the other side of the boat, and they hugging and kissing, and then it just fades to black, and the movie ends there.
Okay.
Which I'm not a big fan of, actually.
No, I like how the theatrical ending ends up leaving it a little open for a sequel that we clearly never got, and
yes,
and that's okay. I like those types of endings.
So MGM asked David to film another ending because the test audiences didn't want Gavin to die. And the test audiences were coming back negative because they didn't want him to die. So they filmed that scene.
Okay.
At the school, which is strange.
Yeah. It's clearly him going off into the world to make some of the corrections that he found so appealing in his new life, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So now, in terms of the differences, uh,
Mm.
earlier I said there were 3 cuts. I actually mistaken that there's 4 cuts. And for those who are able to watch this in on TV, Sci-Fi Channel, or
Oh, that's right. I heard
their
about. Yeah.
yeah, they actually added the deleted scenes back into the movie using the new ending with him at the school, but they did remove the violence that obviously would have made this rated R.
Mhm.
Which is very weird because the director's cut goes close to 2 hours, and the cut that ended up in theaters was an hour and 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
roughly half an hour was removed. A lot of stuff was removed in half an hour. And from what I've been told, the lucky few in 2019, Fangoria was treated to a director's cut viewing with
Ooh.
the director and stated that it is miles better than the final cut that we have seen here.
Come on, MGM, get your head out of your ass. It's
And and that disappoints me greatly. And one of the things that David
yeah.
Nutter did say, I believe it was at a Times interview many years ago, said that MGM basically was telling him like, well, teens are not going to sit in a theater for close to 2 hours, for over 90 minutes, which was weird. We have an Avatar movie that just released, which is
Yeah.
3 hours, and
You got that a few years back. There was Endgame. It's come on.
yeah, yeah,
It's as much as I like a tight 90-minute horror film.
yeah,
If the film's worth it, I mean, I can't wait to see Beau is Afraid.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
give me that long Ari Aster movie. I'm
Yeah,
down.
but it sucks because he from his interview, there was a great interview he did with Fangoria years ago, and he was extremely upset because he was like, "This was not my work. This was not my vision. This was butchered. This was they took their hands on it and just chopped it up. They even brought in a new editor, which they didn't even credit.
Ugh.
George Fosley Jr. He's done a few. He's done many
I
things,
know the
but
name. I just
yeah,
blanking on what. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's probably a good reason why David Nutter has mostly stuck with television and not really wanted to, do feature films. He's only done a couple, really. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
good for him. He's won some Emmys for his directing. So,
Mhm.
he's getting
It
his
just really
flowers.
sucks. It really sucks that, like, you're basically your baby here is being butchered.
Yeah. So
And
I understand not wanting to have that experience again because of
yeah,
that. I mean, shit. Look at David Lynch. He has repeatedly said he has absolutely no desire to see Denis Villeneuve's Dune,
Dune.
and
Yeah,
wants nothing to do with it because his experience filming the original '84 version, um, you know, that film was all over the place.
yeah,
It was a lot of it really self-indulgent David Lynch. Sure. I think it works really well as a David Lynch movie. But
yeah,
also, I mean, there's clearly some studio shit going on. Hell, if you've ever seen the like 4 hour long sci-fi channel, like director's cut, yeah, directed by Alan Smithy. You know what that means. Uh, yeah. Um, I get somebody wanting to step away from stuff like that.
yeah. It really sucks because there is fans that came together and edited the movie themselves closer to the original Disturbing Behavior version. There is a brave soul out there who did put it on YouTube, but
Mm.
ironically, MGM blocked it.
Can't
So,
imagine why. Can't imagine why.
yeah, but very weirdly, it does sit currently as we speak. It does sit on YouTube. You may need to find a VPN or some way to go around it, but it's still there.
Hmm.
It says it's blocked by this country by MGM.
Gotcha.
I tried. I tried. I'm still trying, and I will get through it. But um, I will say that I myself am putting together a cut of this.
Ah,
Uh, and it's I'm trying to find every nook and cranny of footage that I can get to piece it together. Um, it's so sad.
yeah.
It
Well, it's not that it's like the worst movie in the world. It is clearly tons of fun. And
which I
even,
yeah.
25 years later, there's a lot of stuff 25 years later does not hold up, especially out of, the 90s. But yeah, this movie still absolutely rips. I just
I've been seeing a growing. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been seeing a growing appreciation for this movie. People that are just finding it now.
Yeah.
Um, and then Shout Factory did release a Blu-ray version a few years back, and so everything is upresed. So I'm ripping the deleted scenes off of that to try to make my cut. But David Nutter was very close to featuring the director's cut in the home releases, but MGM again blocked him.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's just, but he has it, apparently.
well, we can all dream.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of, in total, there are about 11 deleted scenes. The original ending, certain scenes were extended longer,
Mhm.
which 20 to 25 seconds added to a scene can really change
Oh,
a
absolutely.
ton. There's just I want to believe the truth is out there. I will find it. I'm just like, I'm putting the pieces together. I'm like, man, we're so close.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping that one day David Nutter himself was like, you know what? Hey, I uploaded it on this thing. Take it.
Yeah, you never know. Or
I've seen that done.
maybe he'll work something into his will where once he passes, it'll all come out. Uh, you never know. You never know.
I really hope again. Eventually, it will.
I
It will
just hope
come.
it sees the light of day while he's still alive to,
Yeah.
get, some of the appreciation that will clearly come from a more full vision of his work getting released. I have faith that people will find a far better appreciation of this film from something like that. Like you said, the truth is out there. So,
Yeah. I just hope this is randomly sitting on a computer somewhere that someone finds and it's like, hey, you know what? Here you go, upload it.
hmm or somebody spills their Coke on a keyboard and it just magically happens. I don't know.
Hey,
Stranger
hey,
things have happened.
I
Yeah.
will be tweeting at him once we're done here.
Well, uh, Joey, any final thoughts on disturbing behavior?
Yes, I feel that actually working in education for over 7 or 8 years, I've shown this movie to high school students today. They love it. They absolutely love it. Obviously, they're not supposed to be watching this. It's rated R,
Probably not.
PG-13. Yeah, yeah. This is behind, behind closed doors. But it's there's such a weird there's it's just a fun factor to this movie that's like you could shut off your brain for some of the things that don't make sense and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I'm just like there's been times I've tweeted the past 2 or 3 years where I'm just like, hey, this movie could be remade today
Hmm.
as a soft reboot in a new city with out there. And I'm just like, you could have so much fun with a remake or a soft reboot to this today, with the
Yeah.
education system being the way it is.
Well, there's definitely plenty of properties that want to do different takes on Stepford Wives style scenarios. We see them time and time again. So yeah, you could absolutely do a soft reboot of this or just a straight up remake, and have some fun with it. I think
Yeah.
you could.
You could have
Mm,
James Marston as the doctor.
There you go. That would be a fun touch. Because right about now, he's probably about the age that Bruce Greenwood was when he filmed this movie. So there you go. If you'd like, Joey, where can people find you?
I am Twitter _ Brooklyn Bear.
All right. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. I will absolutely try to get you back on something else again because this was a blast. We will find something.
Yeah.
But this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes. Please like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. I'll be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spoopy, everyone.